So just outside, I was watching the ISR bird, and then I saw it lock on, and then seconds later, it friggin' turns the SUV into twisted metal AGM 114, right through the dead center of it. And my buddy pats me on the back. He goes, "Congratulations, you just bagged Qasem Soleimani." So much goes into it. And, I'm only limited in perspective. So I know that first off, it's like, for the audience, had a very small piece of Baghdadi. It was advanced force operations, mostly, second set of eyes on the site, making sure things are okay. All the credit goes to the guys that did the raid and the people that found him. And, those two stories, I think that, the story behind how they found him and, where he was located is really interesting. It's a great story too. But, and the guys that did the raid as well, and the dog the military working dog that was injured, that really did happen, So it was impeccable. I mean, the balls that you had to pull that mission off was very complicated because at that time, Turkey invaded, portions of northern Syria, and we were pulling back. So if anything went wrong that far in northwest Syria, we were away from a lot of help. Or, the guys that did the raid were away from a lot of help. So, so with that being said, right, moving forward though, but like Soleimani, I was more intimately involved in making that strike happen. And a lot of, the J2, right? So, within the machinations of the machine, you have the 2, and that's responsible for all the intelligence, right? And that person was a master puppeteer, because we're all working siloed there was probably more people that worked on it than, me and the other dudes that did what we did. And so, similarly to Baghdadi was that, one big thing that you do in special forces is operational preparation of the environment. And the more kinetic you get with an operation, the more refined your preparation of the environment has to be. So we knew that something was happening at the airport, and we're looking for all angles of how can we exploit this airport, right? How do we get more information? How do we get eyes on? How do we have greater viz on the planes coming in, other than ISR, but like on the ground, being able to PID, positively identify a target, right? So it's also, at the time we knew, like I didn't know, I was just told to drop what I was doing to work on this one thing. Now at the time I wasn't too keen on that because I had, like I said earlier, is that I had a million irons in the fire. This job is an entrepreneurial job. I just can't stop doing my work, and so for this one thing. And really it was just, my fellow Green Beret friend was like, "No, trust me, you want to work on this." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. That's all. Say no more." And so he's like, "Hint, hint, you want to work on this? Okay, man, let's go." And so I can't say much, obviously, and how it was done, but we knew everything that was going on in and out of that airport. And we knew exactly how it was going to happen. So, the VIP SUVs show up. This flight comes in around midnight on January 2nd. And I'm just bitching because I'm like, I want to go to bed. I'm like, I don't care. I've seen a lot of Kill TV, been on Kill TV. Like,
I know what's happening.
I know what's happening. I don't care. I'm just going to go to bed, and my buddy, he pulls out a shitty metal folded chair and he sets it down and he goes, "Sit the fuck down." Right. And he basically was making me watch this. So I'm sitting there and I'm like this.
Pouting.
I was pouting. I was like, "Fine." Right. And, all the ISR birds were on looking at Baghdad airport. So black SUV shows up, as we assessed was going to happen. Individual gets off, gets in the black SUV, goes the route that we knew were assessed they were going to take. And somewhere along the lines of Route Irish, which is outside of Baghdad Airport, which during the Iraq War was heavily targeted by insurgents with IEDs and stuff like that. It was only fitting that the finish happened there.
Right then and there.
Yeah. And so so just outside, I was watching the ISR bird and then I saw it lock on, and then seconds later, it friggin' turns the SUV into twisted metal AGM 114, right through the dead center of it. And my buddy pats me on the back. He goes, "Congratulations, you just bagged Qasem Soleimani." And we're like, right? The Super Bowl, it was like we won the Super Bowl. Yeah. It really was like, you want to talk about one of the most dangerous men that are in existence, the level of nefarious shit that he is responsible for, the arming these Shia insurgent groups, not just being a thorn in our side, but a geopolitical risk to stability in the Middle East being perpetrated by him. Because at the time, and this is something I always forget to say, is that in the buildup to the strike is we were getting intelligence that Kataib Hezbollah was planning and staging an attack on the embassy. And we were afraid that was going to happen. And after the lessons learned of Benghazi, every single person was like, the fuck that's happening. Every commander's like, not happening on my watch, right? Type of thing. And so there was a lot of solidarity with that, but we were producing a bulk of intelligence that was coming out, what they were doing, what their plans, munitions that they were moving around, all these things. And we were also setting up retaliatory strike targets too. So we're not only trying to paint the picture, but we were also getting ready for offense too. And this is kind of the maniacal thinking of, a bunch of Green Berets that I like to say, with near, the authority that we had, SF guys too. We had other guys who were from other soft backgrounds and stuff like that. So I can't just limit it to GBs, but so most fitting that it was us that we did the deed. But and then the Kataib Hezbollah operative launched Katyusha rockets on K1 in Kirkuk, and it ended up killing a contractor. And so, we were on high alert, for that. But then I just think, and I was working this op that I didn't know who the target was at that time when that happened. And I just think it's really funny that our response was, you killed our contractor, we killed your general. It's like, holy crap. That was a real
one too.
Yeah. Not just any general, the general, a guy that's feared and revered, by all. And so, yeah, it was, I would say probably the aftermath of that, the general feeling from the executive branch or the top levels of, the executive cabinet, was keep your foot on the gas.
Yep.
That's what it felt like all the way. General McKenzie was the CENTCOM commander. He wrote an article in the Atlantic, and it was kind of funny. It was like when he was like over, on the ground, we were busting our ass. But for him, it was just like a Tuesday, or like I think he was at like the weekend before it happened. He was writing about it, like he was giving the ball at like a football game or something like that.
Oh yeah. Didn't he give like a hint where he was like, you guys be paying attention? Like
I don't know, I'm just so far removed, from any of that shit. I just know I'm like, wow, some important people care about what's going on here.
I was gonna say,
and I'm like, I'm like, this is. I never had a reply from something within 20 minutes to a half hour of sending it up. And so anyways, like, me and the other dudes, we're working this, and, there's a lot of details I can't give. It's an expensive little operation to, to do it right. But the aftermath was equally crazy because here we are, we're sitting here. All right, we think they're going to hit us with 107 rockets. And it ends up fucking being a ballistic missile. and you know, I guess like, you know, at the time we were like, holy shit, thank God it wasn't a direct hit, which, I mean, thank God it was. But then I watched the barrage they launched at Israel and I was like, oh, we had it easy.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, we just had like one or two, you know, just trying to graze us, you know, so to speak. But, and I don't know if that was a show of, you know, I'm not an analyst, you know, I can't say that, but you know, we were there and I remember Armin, one of my favorite people, me and him used to compete over targets on this deployment. So who was going to be able to bag this target or bag that target? And, you know, I'd work an angle, he'd work an angle, and we're just trying to compete him, like, you know, who could get this guy first, right? And he's an SF guy, dive team guy, very competitive dude, right? So we had a lot of fun. But he was injured and his arm was in a sling and he's got a kit on and he's sitting outside and he's like, this is his fourth pump. And he's like, hey man, he's like, it's just going to be a bunch of 107s. Right. And he's like, I'm just going to sleep in this camping chair outside the bunker. and we hear it hit. It's like a whoom, whoom, you know, it's like kind of distant. It wasn't like on top of us. And he's like, I'm like, get in, right? And he jumps up, runs in, his little arm in a sling and his rifle bouncing off his kit, right? It was like fucking cartoon character, man. And we're sitting there and we're all quiet. And I look at we had a couple very junior analysts supporting us. Like it was like their first deployment. I look at this kid and his nickname was Baby Miles. I go, Baby Miles, we're going to war and you're going to be the first to die, right? And he was just like, really? Right? You know, because the whole night he's talking shit. He's talking shit the whole night. Yeah. And then the reality set in of what just happened, right? And it was really funny, but we were razor edge close to war with Iran during that time. Not that long after that, we pulled us all in the room and they were like, this is going to be the team that's going to go across the border, myself included. And I'm kind of laughing and, you know, and I made this joke back then and I love telling this joke now is I'm in the room and we're all talking about, well, at least there'll be a book about us. Right. And obviously it didn't happen, you know, but, you know, the thought of doing that would have been akin to the guys that went to Afghanistan, you know, that mission would have been very difficult, would have challenged every aspect of my training, not just as an SF guy, but also as an intelligence officer, you know, and kind of Did
part of that excite you?
Totally. Because I mean, we skipped over a key part was that, you know, towards the end of December, that spicy relationship that I was in with Gabriella, I had anxiety about it ending. Right. And it did end. And I almost took my own life. You know, suicide ideation was like the only way out. And I was looking at, you know, my pistol. I had a million ways to go out with a bang, literally. You know, my little chew that I was in, I had grenades. I had my rifle. I had my pistol. Pick whatever poison you want, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, that conversation inside myself stuck with me. And, you know, in the moment, the excitement of doing these huge ops was only, you know, a Band-Aid to the deep wounds that were festering inside me, you know, the conversation that was inside myself. So this is what I say in the book is that the thought of going across the border and never coming back, you know, or at least I'd die like a hero is what I would say instead of, you know, the shame that we associate with people that died by suicide, you know? And I was like, oh, this is my out. You know, that was part of the conversation that was going on inside my head too. Obviously it didn't happen because not long after that, we were compromised by a mole, Edith. And Edith betrayed us, gave us up, gave our sources up to Hezbollah and Iran. And, you know, that is anything that could have happened to a spy on that deployment happened to me.